All aboard the Polar Express passenger and freight model trains. In this video we're going to landscape around the Elf Tug-of-War, and then we're going to run the trains through a switching operation. And we're starting right now. Hi, I'm Owen, and I am continuing to build, expand, and improve my Lionel Polar Express model train layout in traditional O-gauge. In today's video we're going to landscape around the Elf Tug-of-War. That's the newest addition to my layout. When this arrived, it was defective. I decided to repair it myself instead of sending it back to Lionel for warranty repairs. Back in January, I sent 7 remote control switches to Lionel for warranty repairs at their instruction. They tell me that they have somehow managed to lose them in their warehouse. And so now it's August and I'm still waiting for my switches to be found, repaired, and returned to me. There are several unfinished areas around the lower level of my layout, and that's where those switches will go once Lionel returns them. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Have you ever sent anything back to Lionel for repair work, for warranty work? If so, please drop a comment down below and let me know whether that was a good experience or a bad experience for you. In the meantime, while I wait for Lionel to find and return my switches, I'm using some older switches. However, these are switches that are not remote control. I have to throw them manually. So when we get to that part of this video, that's what I'll be doing. You're going to want to make sure you stick around and see the trains running on the layout. Now let's dive into the landscaping for the Elf Tug-of-War. In an earlier video, I mentioned that I thought Lionel had kind of missed the boat on this one by not including a light with it to illuminate the accessory. So I decided to add a Woodland Scenic Just Plug floodlight. I did that by taking that floodlight and using Plaster O-gauge I-beams to create a pole that goes up a little bit and then an arm that reaches out from that pole a little bit in order to direct the light right onto the accessory. And then after I was done with all of that, I painted the whole thing steel gray metallic. And I think it looks pretty good. After giving the hydrocal plaster a little bit of time to set up, I took these plaster rocks and I arranged them around the base of the light pole, just as you might see in the real world, where they would be used to brace a light pole or other structure and help keep it in an upright position. So that's where we are right now. The lightweight hydrocal plaster, now that it has dried, doesn't look quite white enough, so I'm going to do some painting on that to bring it out, make it look whiter. To make the surface appear whiter so it would be more like a snow-covered surface, I've used this primer, white primer. It's Glidden Gripper. There are other white primers you could use as well. The important thing is that it's going to add whiteness to the surface and it's going to make it look much more like a snow-covered area. Now before I can go to the next step, I'm going to have to let that primer cure for at least 24 hours. And that means it'll be tomorrow morning when I go to the next step with the landscaping. I want to do a quick refresher and show you how to color plaster rocks. Now the pigments I'm using are from Woodland Scenic, and they're 3 colors. They're part of their Earth Colors series. I'm using raw umber, stone gray, and black. Woodland Scenic recommends that you dilute them 17:1 for your primary colors, that's water to pigment, and 34:1 for your secondary color. I like my colors a little more intense than that, a little more vivid, so I dilute them less. And you can dilute them according to whatever works best for you. To apply the pigments, you take a sponge brush like the one I have here, and the first pigment, first primary color, you're going to dab just over the plaster stone, a little bit random. You don't want it to look like it's too contrived, so random is good. And you want to cover roughly 1/3 of it. That will allow you then to have room to put on your secondary color and your other primary color as well. Then you do the same thing with your second primary color. I'm going to make sure that the pigment's mixed into the water first by swirling it around a little bit with the brush. And then I'm going to go and start covering the rock. Now I'm going to apply my secondary color, which is black. Black is usually the best choice for a secondary color because you're going to put it over the whole rock, and as it runs down, it fills in cracks and crevices and gives it a very natural look. This, I think, is really where it starts to pop and starts to look like a rock that you would find in nature. So once we've done this with our secondary color over the whole rock, again, we're just letting it run down, letting it go into the cracks and crevices and thoroughly cover everything. Once we've done this, I'm going to let it dry, and once it's dried thoroughly, it'll be time to seal it using scenic cement. So there you have it. This ends up looking very natural. Looks very much like a rock you'd find in nature, and once it dries, that effect will be even more apparent. So here's what the rock comes out looking like, and you can see that's really looks much more realistic than just the plain white rock that we started with, plaster that we started with. So it looks pretty realistic, but we still have to seal it now, and that's what we're going to do right now. When you're doing this, overspray is always an issue, so I've got this paper towel around here to catch any overspray and hopefully keep it contained. The scenic cement will dry clear with a matte finish. The final step in this process is going to be to simulate a snowfall. I'll be drizzling artificial snow around the tug-of-war area in order to simulate what it would look like in the wintertime. Well, I think that landscaping turned out pretty well. Drop a comment down below, let me know what you think of it. Now it's time to move on to running the trains. Well, that'll do it for today, folks. Thanks for watching, and please be sure to like the video, click the thumbs up below and like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and share it with anyone else you know that may be into model railroading. As always, I appreciate your support, so thanks for watching.